Hello students. In the previous video, we talked about how to change direct speech into indirect speech. Indirect speech is used to report the information spoken or said by someone. In reporting the information, we use a lot of reporting verbs to report what someone said, like say, tell, ask, etc. We have many other verbs also to report. But before using them, we should know the correct pattern of their uses. The most commonly used reporting verbs, as I said before, are say, tell, and asked. Here, we see one by one. First one is say. So, what is the correct pattern of using this say as a reporting verb? So, using the word that is optional after say. Usually, see this in this example. Bob said he was happy. Said is the reporting verb. And the same example is written in the second way, like Bob said that he was happy. That means after the reporting verb said, we have used that in the second sentence. And one thing you should remember that it is the uses of that after say is optional. We may use it or may not use it. So after say, that is an optional word which we may use it or we may skip it. Like both the examples given here are correct. The pattern is when we are using say as the reporting verb, we can write it as Bob said he was happy, or Bob said that he was happy. That means we can use it individually or we can use it along with the word that. And here, one common error which everyone does is Bob said me that he was happy. In this example, after said, they have used the person, that is object. Usually, that is an error which people do. Means after said, we should not use the object immediately. So this one thing we have to remember. Bob said that he was happy would be the right sentence. And after the said, we should not use any object or we should not refer to any person immediately after this reporting verb. This one thing you have to remember. The second common reporting verb that we use is tell. The pattern of this uses is after the word tell, we have to add a person and then that. That again would be an optional element. After the word tell, we must always have a person. That means to whom we are referring to. See in this example, Jane told me. Told is the reporting verb. That is a past form of tell. Told is the reporting verb. After this told, we have referred to a person here. That means when you use tell as a reporting verb, you have to add a person immediately after the tell. After the word tell. Jane told me she had worked late. Jane told me that she had worked late. Both the sentences are correct. But the difference is the uses of this word that. And I told you that is an optional one. So if you use it or not, that doesn't make any difference. And we have one more structure or we have one more pattern of using this tell as a reporting verb. Here, tell plus someone plus not plus to. We use tell someone to for giving an order or command. While we are giving orders or commands, we use this pattern. That means when the sentence is an order or when the sentence is a command, Usually this kind of sentences we say them as imperative sentences. And see an example. My mom told me to clean my room. Clean my room. It's a kind of imperative expression. My mom told me to clean my room. So here the pattern is a reporting verb, immediately followed by someone plus to clean, that is infinitive form of the verb, we have to use it. My dad told me not to play with fire. If it is a negative sentence, then where to add this not? Immediately after the person. My dad, after that a reporting verb told, and then it is followed by a person, and then it is followed by the negative form, and then the infinitive to infinitive verb. So this is the pattern that we have to follow. So when you are using a reporting verb tell, we have two patterns that we follow. One is tell plus someone plus that. That is optional. The second pattern is tell plus someone plus not plus to. That means in a sentence, after the reporting verb, we have to add a person, and if it is a negative, we have to negative form, or else we add to infinitive form. So these are the two patterns which we use when we are using tell as a reporting verb. Next, we have other common reporting verb, that is ask. If you use ask as the reporting verb, then the pattern of the sentence would be like ask plus someone plus if or whether. Usually we use this if or whether. Already we discussed this thing. If or whether is used in yes or no questions. When you are converting a direct speech into indirect speech, if that part is an yes or no question, then when we are converting that into indirect speech, we use if or whether. This is a rule. So ask plus someone plus if or whether. We use ask someone if or whether for yes or no questions, as I told you. So we'll see in an example sentence. They asked the teacher if there was any homework. They asked the teacher if there was any homework. So here, as I told you, the pattern asked is the reporting verb. Immediately after asked, we got a person, that is someone, the teacher, and then we got if. So this is the pattern. And we have one more pattern for question words. If we are using helping verbs or questions, then we use if or whether. If they are question words, that means WH question words, like we use this pattern, that is asked plus someone plus he asked me what time it was. This is the second pattern. Like he asked me, that means asked plus someone plus question word, that is what is the question word, what time it was. Usually when we convert questions into indirect speech, that means interrogative sentences into indirect speech, we get these changes. There are two types of questions, as we know. Questions which we form with helping verbs and questions which we form with question words. Here, when we frame questions with helping verbs, then usually the first pattern we use. That is, when we convert that into an indirect speech, usually the sentence would come like this. They asked the teacher if there was any homework. They asked the teacher whether there was any homework. If that is a question with WH word, like question word, then how to convert that into indirect means, like the reporting verb that we use is asked, reporting pattern asked plus someone plus what, or someone plus how, or someone plus why, like that. He asked me what time it was. He asked us, asked is the reporting verb, immediately followed by someone, and that is immediately followed by a question word. She asked us how to get to the railway station. They asked the police officer why the road was closed. They asked is the reporting verb, the police officer is the person, and immediately it was followed by a question word, why the road was closed. So one thing we have to remember here, the error that we make, immediately after this reporting verb, we should not add to. They asked to. We can't say like this. If it is a statement, like they asked to the police officer, is a wrong expression. So immediately after ask, we should not use to. Then when we use to, like when we are requesting someone to do some action, or when we are requesting action from the other person. So see here, I told you we should not use to after ask. Means in between we should have someone there. That means we have to refer the person, and then we have to use the to infinitives. So she asked me to close the door. She asked me to close the door. Here reporting verb we have used, and immediately after that we have got a person, and then we have used an infinitive form, that is to close. Here see the second example. She asked me not to leave the door open. This is a negative kind of sentence. So here we have added not to make that sentence negative. She asked is the reporting verb, me is the person. As it is a negative statement, like we have used a not here, and then to. Usually this to, that means to infinitive, we would get after ask in the sentences where we request someone, some person, to do some action. Now for advices, like so far we have seen how to, like the reporting verbs that we use in statements, the reporting verbs we use in questions. Now see here, reporting verbs for advice, then how to advise others, or when we are advising others, then what are the reporting verbs that we use. For example, like see this word recommend. Recommend is also a word, a reporting verb, which is used to express advice. Recommend plus inform we use, or else recommend plus that we use. See here in the example, I recommend staying in this hotel. I recommend, this inform verb we have used here. This one thing we have to remember. I recommend staying in this hotel. Or we have another pattern to use when we are using recommend as the reporting verb. I recommend that you stay in this hostel. When you use that, we don't use here an inform. Again the pattern would change. I recommend staying in this hotel. I recommend that you stay in this hotel. These are the two patterns that we use with this reporting verb recommend. Like suggest plus ing, or suggest plus that. If you use suggest as the reporting verb, then we have two patterns to follow. That is, after suggest we get an ing form of the verb, or else after suggest we get that plus the base form of the verb. He suggested taking an early train. Suggested, taking is the ing form of the verb we have used here. He suggested taking an early train. He suggested that I take an early train. These are the two patterns that we construct when we are using recommend or suggest. And one common error which we generally do is he suggested me. That means immediately after suggested verb, we should not add a person to this. We should not add a person to this. So after suggest, what we get is the verb with inform or that. So this one error we have to avoid. We should not write, or we should not express like this. That means after the reporting verb suggested, the person should not follow immediately after this reporting verb. And one more thing is, one more verb which we use is warn. Warn, when we are using warn as the reporting verb, then the pattern should be like this: warn plus someone plus about, or warn plus someone plus not plus to. So these are the two patterns which we follow when we are using this reporting verb warn. Here we warn people. Usually when we we warn people about something which is dangerous or something which may uh, give them a bad result. So usually to avoid people doing such things, we give a warning. So here, see this example. They warned us about, see the pattern.